because I can create with my mind. And when things start to spiral down, and talk a little bit about that, because if you start to spiral down, these wonderful gifts can be used against you.
I think most of us, a lot of the time, that's what we're doing. Right? We're using them against us. So I think that the idea is, it's not only that some people have the ability, we all are creating through our imagination, whether we're doing it deliberately or unintentionally, that's a different story. But yeah, they can, for sure. I mean, we can be using the imagination reverse. We can be using it backwards, and really simply, this idea, this concept of worry, which we all fall into at times, right? I'd be lying if I'm sitting here, I never worry, it still happens. A lot better than I ever was, I'll tell you that much.
Right.
But worry is just using imagination in a destructive way. What are we doing? We're picturing an outcome, a scenario that we do not want, that hasn't happened, that we do not want to happen. We're imagining it. We're feeling bad about it. And here we are. We're probably stuck because we're doing that. So we're not taking any positive action. But then number two is, now I'm on this low level frequency, this low level vibration, and I'm beginning to attract more of the things I don't want. So what's the catch with this stuff? Sometimes when people start studying this stuff, you get a little too serious about it. Oh my God, I had a negative thought, and they're starting to panic and freak out. I mean, the good news is, you're not that good yet, that you're not that good that you usually get instantaneous manifestation. So don't.
Hey, welcome to Networking Star. My name is Jeffery Boyle, and here on Networking Star, I interview some of the most innovative and cool entrepreneurs. And these entrepreneurs give us inspiration and help us just want to have, be, and do more in life. And today I'm joined by Ben Spangl. He is a speaker, he's a coach, and he's the top 1% of podcasters worldwide. And as a mindset coach, he really focuses on helping people live a life they love. That's great concept. So welcome to Networking Star, Ben.
Jeffrey, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Heck yeah. How does one become a top 1% podcaster?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had originally not planned on starting a podcast. I knew I was getting into the speaking game and everything. I spent, at that point, I was 13, 14 years building a different company, a different business. But to make a long story short, a friend of mine encouraged me. She said, I think you should do it. I think a lot of people would listen. And so anyways, got started in November of 2020. And it began really simply with, I was fairly aggressive in reaching out to as many people as I could, as I knew. Go check it out, go give it a listen. And beyond that, it took time, but with it primarily organically just starting to grow, and a little bit of word of mouth here and there. And here we are today. So that's, it kind of surprised me, to be honest. Yeah.
It's, as I evaluate, why in the world I do this? I've got a business that keeps me super busy. And I think what it comes down to is just, I started it in the beginning to meet cool people. And then I took a break for like 5 years, and cause I was doing a bunch of business internationally. I think I just like meeting cool people. And some people ask me what the goal of mine is, and I don't care. I meet cool people. Yeah. And I think that's been my goal. But what if you're talking to people about creating a podcast? And I loved, you can weave in your mindset stuff, because you talked a lot about that, and attracting really what you deserve, I suppose. But what would you suggest to a new person? Because there's so many podcasts out there. There's so much information, and it's becoming more and more widespread. So how do you create a successful podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, by the way, I agree with you. One of the best parts of running a show is you get to meet incredible people, the relationships, the friendships, the connections. But I think the first thing is knowing, why do you even want to do it? Like right? Like, that's part of it. Yeah. I remember reading
it takes a lot of time. I mean,
it
takes a lot of time, and you got to invite, and you got to call, and you got to take no's, and you got to have people wondering, what are you up to? It takes time.
You got it. Yeah. Yeah. No, but I think I was reading something that the average podcast doesn't make it past the 6th or 7th episode or something like that. So, my guess would be, most people, when they're starting, if that's the case, my guess is there's not really a real reason why they're starting it, other than, for shits and giggles, let's see what happens. Right. Sure. But, so I think one is, why do you actually want to do it? Two is, are you talking in an area that you actually love talking about?
Right.
So for me, I mean, I love the conversation around business. I love the conversation around mindset. I love the conversation around manifestation, performance. I mean, overall, just life success. So to me, that's such fascinating. Everybody I talk to in that space and any of those spaces really interests me and have lots of fun with it. So starting with that, and I think back to this a few years back, Jeffrey, but I was watching a Gary Vee video. Right. I don't watch much of, but I happened to watch this one.
He can melt your face with his F words if you're not careful, man. But if you can get through those F words, it's like it's not a rated R. I think it's a TV mature listening to him, but he's pretty compassionate and just beautiful message. But you're just like,
totally is.
Whoa, I hope my kids aren't listening.
Yeah, no, he totally is, man. And it was a younger kid asking him, how do I build a big Instagram, or how do I build a big something or other? And his answer to him, and it impacted me in a big way. He is a beautiful guy, a compassionate guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, don't create because you want a certain amount of followers. Just create content because you love to create content.
Yeah.
And so I think in the podcast world too, I mean, if we're doing it so we can get famous, if we're doing it for whatever, I mean, great. Those could be benefits that could happen from it. But if that's the primary motivator behind it, you're probably going to end up getting frustrated with do it because you love doing it. Do it because you're enjoying doing it. And I think with those things, they definitely help. And then in terms of getting started, I mean, you've got a network, whatever you do, it may be small, it might be medium, it might be big, but you have a network. But being willing to at least invite people to give it a listen. You're not even asking them to buy anything. You're just saying, hey, why don't you come check out my show and start that way. I mean, that's a great place to start.
I think I saw it on YouTube like 15 years ago. There's this young kid that did a TV show. I think it was even before YouTube or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably messing this up, but he kept contacting Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
Over and over and over and over again. And one time as Kevin Bacon was going through town, he called the kid and he's like, hey, I'm going to be there at 2:00 in the morning. And I think the kid was 12. And so you got this kid in this little studio in the middle of Indiana or something like that. I know I'm butchering the facts, but he got Kevin Bacon, awesome. One of the most famous movie stars in the last, 30, 40 years. He's been on a million movies. And this 12-year-old got Kevin Bacon. And what it said to me at that time was like, man, if you're persistent, you can get Kevn Bacon to come to your house at 2:00 in the morning for an interview.
It's pretty cool. Persistence and the willingness to ask. That's he had the courage to ask in the first place. Right. So,
yeah. You said a couple of words in the beginning of it. You called it life success and mindset. Yeah. And Bob Proctor was, I was one of those guys that paid his $10,000 to become a facilitator, and then $5,000 for him to coach me, and $5,000 again before I realized, I think it was his secretary responding to my emails. But the question I have for you as it relates to the mindset, because there was nobody better at talking about the mindset and the power of the conscious and the subconscious mind.
Totally.
Where do you draw your inspiration for that type of stuff?
It's interesting. Bob's one of the greatest mentors in my life, hands down. And, it'd be great if he was still here with us. Right. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it was from Bob for sure. I'm big on, there's three main people in my world, three main influences. There's lots, but the primary three when it comes to the mindset was Bob, Joe Dispenza. I'm fascinated by his work and what he teaches. And then more. So if you think of this is the way I view it, I think of Joe as kind of heavier scientific background and everything, great spiritual background too. Bob's probably in the middle. And then we've got Abraham Hicks, Esther, and Jerry on the far end. And those are the big three. I think that they've influenced my life more than anything else. And I'm all about not just how do we create the success we want, how do we do it in a way that we're really loving our life and I'm actually enjoying the process and having fun, because I know that many people in the pursuit of the things that they want, they're grinding, they're gritting their teeth. I'm just going to freaking make this happen. And you can do it. You can still make it happen. It's just usually not the happiest time of your life, Yeah. So how do we do both?
So let me talk to you a little bit about some of the people in there. For example, Abraham Hicks. Mm-hmm. And if people don't know what Abraham Hicks is, Abraham Hicks, you talked about a little bit, is a persona that they said was talking to them from the metaphysical. Mm-hmm. And you start talking Abraham Hicks to some people are completely all bought into it. And other people think, this is hocus pocus kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Whether you believe in how it is that they receive that information, the thing is it's pretty transformative, and one of the things that they talk about is your mind and your emotions being your mental GPS.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever had, you have these things that just make perfect sense and you're kind of like, man, that's a little bit weird because it's almost like a
Mm-hmm.
Ouija board that they're
That's
talking
right.
about
Yeah.
receiving
Yeah.
the information.
Yeah.
Have you ever had people doubt you on that? And how is it that you kind of justify or explain the
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks type of thing?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people I talk to, they're fairly open, but if you're not, I mean, I don't start it off by saying, hey, here's where it comes from, right, with them. But what I do frame it for them, though, if I'm going to recommend it, is I frame it, say, listen, it might catch you off guard the way that they get the intro. I kind of like what you said too. It might catch you off guard, but you can even skip the intro if you want.
Yeah.
Just get straight to the content. The content's awesome.
It is spectacular. It's not awesome. I mean, it is next level type of stuff where you just think about it. It's like they did that comparison of if you're trying to get from one part of the country to the next and the GPS tells you you're slightly off course and you just, that's this magical little box that takes you there. But all of a sudden you have these emotions that are deeply ingrained into your person and you doubt them, and I remember listening to him like, I'm going to have to get past what I thought and understand no matter what their inspiration was on that. It's deeply spiritual and it's deeply interesting how it is that when you really get into their stuff.
Well, I think it's the same way in a lot of ways too, that, some people are very religious, others not religious at all. And to me, I mean, all religions have truth in them. Yeah. Right. So different, in a way, the message is coming through somebody else, is coming in a way that perhaps is not your preferred method, but there's no doubt that there's truth, right? So if we can get beyond, like you say, where's it coming from? Instead, does it resonate? Does it, does that make sense to me? And I think a lot of this kind of work a lot of it is more of a feeling based intuitively that there's something about that I believe to be true, right? There's something, so I think so. Yeah.
There's another one out there. Some people know him, some don't. His name is Kevin Trudeau. He spent the last 10 years in prison. Okay. His compilation of Your Wish is Your Command when he's in a fake Swiss castle. And I am 99.9% sure that is complete and total crap. What he's talking about being in this fake thing and pretending that he's got this almost like the Count of Monte Cristo in the audience. But if you listen to his Wish or Your Command, he has done a brilliant job of bringing some of the most just time-tested principles from Think and Grow Rich and he is the best presenter imaginable. And that's what sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, hey, can you give me something to listen to? I'm like, all right, he's full of crap. But if you want to have this masterful presentation of mindset, Your Wish is Your Command with Kevin Trudeau it's spectacular. And the way that he's assembled and stolen information from other people. And if he didn't steal it, and if he really was in a Swiss castle and something like that, then someone can put in the notes, Jeff, he was in that Swiss castle. I was with him. Then you go ahead and tell me. But when things are too secretive and he says he's got a monk with him teaching him Kung Fu, sometimes you have to just say, you know what, I like your message, but I'm not quite sure about your facts. But talk a little bit about that. I think that Bob Proctor was spectacular. And he changed my life. And the first time I went to one of his events, I was going through difficulty of, really trying to get my career back up and going. And after leaving, it's almost like you felt like you turned on the lights. When you're talking to people, that perhaps haven't gotten into the mindset, how do you help them understand how helpful it is to be able to gather this information and to select the truths that really turn the light on?
The first understanding that we all got to develop and bring some more clarity around is that your mind runs your life. The way that you're thinking, the way that you're feeling, the way that you're behaving, all these things are, most of them, automatic programs. So they're happening behind the scenes with or without you realizing it. So we have to understand our mind runs our life. Well, if our mind does run our life, and I don't think anybody would argue the basic fundamental, let's say we're not even getting into how you begin to create and attract things into your life, but let's just talk about how you create things from your personal action. Well, guess what? In order for you to take some action, some new action that you want, you're going to have to think and feel in different ways. You're going to have to learn to control your thought process. So the mindset component is, if you want to produce different results in your life, in your health and fitness, in your wealth, in your finance, in your career, in your relationships, if you want to produce different results, we've got to shift the mindset. We've got to shift the way that we're thinking about it. So we start with that. But then ultimately, I mean, some people, depending on where we're at with it, if I'm new to all this stuff, I remember my very first growth book I read was Think and Grow Rich. I keep it on my shelf. And I remember where I was when it happened and where we were driving. I was in Ontario at the time driving to a funeral, actually. And it dawned on me, I read it. It's my first growth book, that this idea that my thoughts could become reality, that I became what I think about. I'm 21 years old at the point, and I'd never even heard that concept. I don't think anyone ever talked to me about it ever in my life. And so I started to, whoa, really? You start to entertain new ideas. So I think part of it is just understanding that your mind runs your life. So if you're going to shift your life, you're going to have to shift your mind. And the second part too is that, if this is all new information to us, anytime something new is presented to us, we may have a tendency to kind of question or doubt. Maybe there's a level of healthy skepticism. Maybe there's a level of unhealthy skepticism too. But we just got to look at it this way. Pick an area of your life that you want improvement in. And is the way I'm currently thinking, feeling, and acting, producing the results that I want. Yeah. If it isn't, it might be time to be open that maybe there's a better way.
I love what you just said right there, because my favorite guy that we've talked about today, Kevin Trudeau, I listened to that, your wish is your command, over and over and over again. And I picked out and I tried to find the original sources of it, because he doesn't source his material very well. But one of the things that he said that I thought was groundbreaking was very similar to what you just said right there, which is, if it's not working for you, his thing that he really, really hammers on is feel good now.
Absolutely.
How simple is that? If you do not feel well, and that's Abraham Hicks says the same thing, that your GPS is off, then maybe you need to listen to these emotions. I mean, Abraham Hicks talks about it. If you look at your car dash and it says warning, you'll stop, you'll go to a gas station, you'll do whatever you can to see what that warning is, so it doesn't blow up. But we have everything telling us, from anxiety to depression to just sadness. And Kevin Trudeau, wherever he got it, maybe he made it up himself, but feel good now. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's life, right? It's definitely life. You ever read Feeling is a Secret?
No.
You're going to love that book. Neville Goddard wrote it. And it's a small little book. And I mean, the title says a lot of it, right? But feeling is a secret. But the whole premise is what we're talking about here, is that exact concept, is that life responds to the way that you feel. And if we take it on a further level, I mean, that's really our vibration at any given moment. Our energetic signature is the way that I'm feeling. So his advice, feel good now, is if we just follow that, if we work on that stuff, how can I focus on feeling better? Even if you don't know all the behind stuff, your life's going to get better for sure. If nothing else, if you think it's a bunch of BS, you're going to feel better now. And life is now.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking about the vibration, Proctor talked about that all the time. He talked about that if you put a radio in the middle of a room, because right now, and radio waves are just shooting all around us, and it's just a matter of tuning in to that particular radio wave. And he talks about the vibration. I remember after first hearing that, and I think that's kind of where I started to feel, oh my goodness, turn on the lights. I'm getting what he's talking about. There is a lot of research that shows that thoughts are things. They're not just some kind of, metaphysical or some kind of existential idea. They are things that can be measured. Just, it sounds really simplistic, say, to get an EKG machine. And there's all these studies now showing where emotions come from, and that there's an electrical field created by our thoughts. And all of these things that are been put throughout, all the scriptures of faith, and you believe it, and it will, that's what faith is throughout all the scriptures. But science, to me, oftentimes, when you really understand some of these guys, like as you've talked about with Bob Proctor, there's scientific explanations behind these attractive concepts that I saw in a lot of your videos where you're talking about them. There was a guest on one of your podcasts that I liked a lot, where she was talking about the connection between the gut and the mind. And so many things are starting to make sense. Tell me, if you're first talking with a person that has hired you to be a coach, where do you start with that person to be able to help get them on the right mindset path?
Most people in life, when we look at, if we're not going where we want to be, right? We're at the point we're going to hire a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want some improvement in our life. I'm going to give you the simple form of the easiest answer is usually when we're feeling really poorly, it's because we're spending a lot of time focusing on things the way that they are and things how we don't want them to be.
Right.
And wherever we direct our focus is how we're going to feel, right? We feel based on what we're focusing on. So the simple answer is we start to focus on more of what you want. But the deeper answer is, though, to get started almost invariably, whether I'm meeting with someone who's, relatively new into their business or more kind of seasoned, they're, multiple six-figure earner, clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that we're wanting to create? We've been created to create. So we've been given the abilities as humans. We have these great gifts that we have the ability to imagine a new future. And the idea that thoughts not only become things, but you become what you think about dominantly. That's not what we think about once in a while. Random thoughts doesn't just manifest out of thin air. But what we consistently and continually think and feel, we do create in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, well, we want to get clear. What do I actually want to create? What do I want my life to look like? What is all my business to look like? And without clarity, a lot of people say, no, I got that stuff. I got the mindset stuff, but they're freaking struggling. No, you don't. If you did, it'd be going a lot better, right? So that clarity piece, so to answer your question, where I usually start is we want to define what's the next level of vision. Where is it that you're going? Not just in your business, that's part of your life, but let's paint a picture for your life. How do you want to be living? How do you want your relationship to be? What kind of money do you want to be making? And we begin with that. So we start with that, and then we work on how do we start to condition that in.
One of Bob Proctor's mentors talked a lot about what you were just talking about right there. If you listen to Earl Nightingale, so first of all, his voice was the coolest voice I've ever
serenading
heard.
Voice for sure.
he had that nighttime, just it was soothing yet kept you interested type of voice. And a friend of mine that took over. Oh goodness, all of a sudden slipped my mind the business. It'll come back. But Dave Blanchard talks about Imagineering all the time. And look Dave Blanchard up. He's also got one of those just spectacular voices. And the way that when he analyzes people, he can talk about the ability to Imagineer and the ability to really create with your mind. And that's a real talent and a real curse for the people that have that ability to do it, because most people, he would warn, he has you go through an analysis, and if you have this ability to really create with your mind, you have to be careful, because your mind can create some of the worst circumstances imaginable. And it's the kind of thing that I really recommend you look up Dave Blanchard, anybody who hasn't, because he has just that ability to help people understand what some of their strengths and their weaknesses of their mind are. And I really, really took that to heart after I went through his process, because I can create with my mind. And when things start to spiral down, and talk a little bit about that, because if you start to spiral down, these wonderful gifts can be used against you.
I think most of us, a lot of the time, that's what we're doing. Right? We're using them against us. So I think that the idea is it's not only that some people have the ability, we all are creating through our imagination, whether we're doing it deliberately or unintentionally, that's a different story. But yeah, they can for sure. I mean, we can be using the imagination reverse. We can be using it backwards, and really simply, this idea, this concept of worry, which we all fall into at times, right? I'd be lying if I'm sitting here, I never worry, no, it still happens. A lot better than I ever was, I'll tell you that much.
Right.
But worry is just using imagination in a destructive way. What are we doing? We're picturing an outcome, a scenario that we do not want, that hasn't happened, that we do not want to happen. We're imagining it. We're feeling bad about it. And here we are. We're probably stuck because we're doing that. So we're not taking any positive action. But then number two is now I'm on this low level frequency, this low level vibration, and I'm beginning to attract more of the things I don't want. So what's the catch with this stuff? Sometimes when people start studying this stuff, you get a little too serious about it. Oh my God, I had a negative thought, and they're starting to panic and freak out. I mean, the good news is you're not that good yet, that you're not that good that you usually get instantaneous manifestation. So don't stress out about it too much, but just instead notice it. If you just spent the last hour in a negative spiral and you were unconscious about it, I didn't even realize I was doing it, then you just notice it. How can I shift it? What can I do to shift my state? And that could be something as simple as I'm going to get outside and go for a walk. I begin to feel a little bit better. It could be I'm going to go listen to some good music. I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to go journal. I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to go listen to a podcast like Jeff's. I mean, whatever. Do something that helps you shift your state. Become aware of it. And now let's make a choice to begin to shift our state. And that's the best you can do.
Feel good now.
Feel
Kevin
good
Trudeau.
now.
Haven't brought up Kevin Trudeau in a couple of years, but they're really that's a wonderful thing what you just said. It is about feeling good. Change your state. It's just really creating those emotions. Ben, tell people where they can find you.
For sure, yeah. On my website, you can get some stuff there, benspangl.com, Spangl. And then we're pretty much on all the socials, but Instagram and Facebook are the ones that I'm the most active myself. So I manage those myself. So if you're connected on there, and that's just at Ben Spangl, BenSpangl.
Give them a reason to go there. Help them understand what it is that you're going to do. And I think that that's really what I love. This is the topic that for me has so many different little alleys and branches and different things that we can talk about. And there's just spectacular content out there. Help people understand how it is that you're going to take them from that vibration, that negative feeling, and how you're going to help them get into the proper mindset.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best for sure. Here's my whole thing is that most of what I'm sharing is quick, bite-sized piece of information, strategies that might give you a thought right then and there that maybe it begins your day in a different direction. Maybe it interrupts a bit of a day that's going the wrong way, or maybe you're already doing well and it amplifies it. So it might be a quick little strategy on a video. It might be a quick little idea, whatever it might be. But my whole goal though is that provide some value, provide some stuff that's going to help you think in a new way. It might get you thinking about concepts you could apply in your life. So if you're looking for stuff that you can directly apply, if you're looking for things that might help shift the thought right then and there, it's a great place. There's lots of great people to follow. I don't think I'm the only guy by any means. However, I like sharing some good stuff. So if you're in for leveling up your life and you want to create whole life success, then I'd love to hear from you and I'd love to connect.
Well, good stuff, Ben. Thanks for being on Networking Star.
Thanks for having me.